Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to demystify the so-called magic behind large language models. You know the headlines. These things are summarizing reports, writing code, automating huge workflows. It's wild. But despite all that power, they have some very real mechanical limitations. So today we're uncovering what actually happens under the hood. Why do they fail? And more importantly, exactly how do you protect your organization when you're deploying AI in high-stakes enterprise environments? Let's get right into it.
Okay, first things first, we've got to separate the massive hype from the mechanical reality. A lot of folks just assume AI works kind of like a super smart database, right? Like it truly knows facts and uses logic to verify things, but that's not what's happening at all. Large language models are literally just next token prediction engines. They don't know anything. They are simply predicting what piece of text is statistically most likely to come next. They generate probable text, not verified truth, and grasping that single distinction, that is absolutely crucial for everything else we're going to talk about.
To navigate all these risks, here is our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the AI hype meeting reality, unpack the hallucination problem, explore memory and context limits, analyze real-world enterprise AI risk factors, and finish up by looking at why humans still matter more than ever.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the AI hype meets reality, peeling back the onion.
Moving right along to Section 2, the hallucination problem. Confident but incorrect. You have probably heard of this one. It's the most famous flaw of LLMs. This is where the model just completely makes things up, but sounds so incredibly confident doing it. Let's think about a brilliant way to picture why this next token prediction fails without a reality check. Imagine you feed the model a pattern. You say, at age 7, a kid is 3 feet tall. At 8, they're 4 feet tall. At 9, they're 5 feet tall. Then you ask it to predict their height at age 12. Mechanically, the model predicts an 8-foot-tall 12-year-old. It perfectly recognizes the statistical pattern of the numbers, but it has zero real-world context to know that, hey, human growth absolutely does not work like that.
Now, think about how this translates to finance. It is exactly like trying to forecast your company's revenue using just 3 months of historical data, completely ignoring the broader economy or any operational constraints. What do you get? Mathematically consistent nonsense. AI hallucinations operate on the exact same principle. The output fits the structural pattern to a T, but without that grounding in reality, the actual substance is totally meaningless.
And man, the stakes go through the roof when this happens in a regulated environment. If you ask an AI a super complex legal question, it's highly likely to just start inventing details. We're talking about fabricating IFRS guidance, making up CRA interpretation bulletins, or even creating fake tax case law with realistic author names and publication years. If you blindly trust the AI here, you are literally risking material misstatements, massive tax exposure, and completely destroying your audit defensibility.
So, let's jump to Section 3, memory and context limits. Why AI forgets. If it's just predicting text, why doesn't it just inherently know your company's rules or current events?
Well, the simple answer is that AI training has an end date. Training these massive models is crazy expensive and takes a ton of resources. So every single base model has a strict knowledge cutoff. There was a famous moment where an older model was asked about a massive tech shakeup, and it flat out said, Sam Altman was not fired. Why? Because when its training stopped, that event literally hadn't happened yet. Out of the box, these base models are totally blind to new regulations, recent tax laws, or today's market changes.
So how do we fix this massive knowledge gap? Enterprise AI relies on a system called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. Think of RAG as a super librarian. It goes out, grabs the relevant external documents, PDFs, or database entries, and feeds them directly into the prompt before the AI even attempts an answer. The AI is really just acting as a reasoning layer sitting on top of the actual retrieved data.
The whole point here is that by feeding the AI specific, verified facts right when you ask the question, we drastically cut down on hallucinations. If you're in accounting, your AI agent isn't just taking a wild guess. It's actually looking at the real IFRS guidance, your internal policies, past memos, or actual CRA correspondence. You are forcing the model to ground its answer in the reality you just handed it. But wait, if feeding it documents fixes the problem, why not just dump every trial balance and memo your company has ever written straight into the chat? Well, because of tokens. Everything the AI processes, words, numbers, spaces, punctuation, gets broken down into these finite processing units called tokens, and the model only has a limited amount of memory for any given conversation.
We call this its context window, and it is strictly limited by that token count.
If you try to cheat the system and just stuff that context window with 5 years of GL detail or massive SAP exports, it's gonna crash and burn. The system simply can't hold all that in its head at once. It'll start truncating data, giving you terrible summaries, or just completely forgetting things you told it 3 prompts ago. This is exactly why we need dynamic systems like Reg. You only load up the exact relevant pieces of information the AI needs for that specific moment.
Moving to Section 4, Enterprise AI Risk Factors, Privacy, Cost, and Bias. Beyond the memory issues, running these systems at scale brings some heavy real-world implications.
First up, let's talk dollars and cents. A lot of folks hear open source and instantly think free. Let me be clear, free does not exist in enterprise AI. Even if you skip API token costs, the sheer physical infrastructure is massive. You need GPUs, serious memory, secure hosting. Trying to have an AI process every single invoice your company receives gets incredibly expensive, incredibly fast. Plus, longer outputs mean higher latency, so you're constantly playing tug-of-war between model quality, speed, and budget.
Then we have the absolute minefield that is data privacy. Since base models don't know your internal data, you have to connect them to it. But just imagine if your ERP system started feeding confidential payroll data, social insurance numbers, or sensitive board materials into an improperly secured AI. It happens. And if a user accidentally submits PII, you're looking at a massive compliance nightmare spanning SOX, GDPR, SOC 2, and PIPEDA. If you're doing this seriously, you absolutely need encryption, data masking, and bulletproof audit logs.
And we can't ignore bias inheritance. Because these models are trained on literally the entire internet, they soak up all the historical stereotypes and patterns floating around out there. This is a huge regulatory risk. If you're using AI to evaluate loan applications, screen resumes, or forecast defaults, those inherited biases can easily lead to unequal treatment and massive discrimination claims. Fairness isn't a simple math equation, which makes this a very tricky, ongoing compliance issue.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Why Humans Still Matter, the Ultimate Failsafe.
With all these mechanical limits and enterprise risks, here's the core philosophy for any regulated industry. AI assists humans, it does not replace controls. The most successful organizations out there aren't firing their workforce to plug in bots, they're pairing AI with deep human domain expertise. Treat it as a tool for generation, definitely not a replacement for solid governance.
Because AI lacks actual grounding, has zero business responsibility, and obviously can't be held legally accountable, having a human in the loop is absolutely mandatory. We humans bring the unique stuff: judgment, ethics, professional skepticism. You need that for tax, audit, and finance. The future here isn't autonomous AI running the show, but it's not humans working alone either. It's a highly integrated collaboration between the two. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial question. Now that you know the anatomy of these mechanical risks, the hallucinations, the context constraints, the privacy landmines, are you just blindly trusting the hype? Or are you actively building the human-in-the-loop controls needed to actually master it? Take a hard look at how your organization is navigating this frontier and what you need to do today to make sure AI is a superpower for your team and not a hidden liability.